Welcome to Ali Fitness Podcast, a weekly production all about bringing health into fitness. Searching for health and fitness influencers in New York, I came across Taylor Walker, who grew up here. As a former 9th grade PE teacher, physical education, she has likely always been an advocate for healthy living. Now, as a Wilmina fitness model, blogger, and bear instructor living in Miami, it appears she walks the walk and talks the talk as an ambassador for healthy living. Well, at least that's what her 33,000 plus Instagram followers think. So Taylor, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much.
So I'm fascinated to talk to you about your journey of health and fitness. So how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I grew up as a dancer my entire life, so I've always been into movement. However, I wasn't always into living a healthy lifestyle. It wasn't until I was older and my dance career ended and I became a PE teacher and was preaching living an active and healthy lifestyle. But on the other side of things, I found myself working from 7 a.m. with kids all day through 10 p.m. at night. I would go to coaching. I found that I wasn't sleeping as well as I should be. I wasn't eating as well as I should be, but I was still preaching this philosophy of health and wellness. So I really needed to learn a new way to live. I wasn't moving as much, so how was I going to counterbalance that? So really, it's been a journey over the past 6 to 7 years to figure out what health means to me.
Interesting. And you mentioned as a dancer, you weren't particularly healthy?
I was healthy because I was moving, but I also relied on a fast metabolism and genetics. So I never really gained weight. However, I was into whatever I could get my hands on in terms of fuel. So I didn't see food as fuel. I thought the people that wanted the ginger shots and the kale salads were a little granola and out there. I was fine with eating pizza or chicken fingers before I went on for a performance. There wasn't the connection. My mom is Italian and we grew up eating fantastic things like pasta and antipasto and all that stuff we know and love, but I never really put the two together and realized how it was truly affecting my body.
Interesting. So how did you then become, I guess, a model as well as a big social media influencer in this space from being a PE teacher?
If I'm being honest, it was a happy accident. I fell in love with my brother's best friend. And after working on a master's, attaining a job as a PE teacher, I thought I was set in my career forever. And then he proposed and got a job opportunity in Oregon. I figured, hey, I can teach from anywhere. Let's follow your career because this is what's going to take us for a while throughout our life. So I followed him out to Oregon against better judgment of some of my friends and family as much as they adore him. And I had the dance experience and knew that some of my former dance friends were now fitness models. So it was basically a transfer of skill sets because when you're performing as a dancer, you're making shapes with your body, and you can do that in campaigns for, let's say, a Nike or an Under Armour or Adidas. So there was a lot of carryover. I started substitute teaching on a whim. I applied to a big West Coast sports fitness modeling agency called Sport and Lifestyle Unlimited. I applied to them. I didn't hear anything. So it was a kind of a few months self-discovery situation there. And then I ended up getting signed and started working right away. Like my first job was a video game with Nike. Like it was crazy. So I was like, wow, this could actually turn into something. I started doing showroom for them. And then I booked another big campaign for Nike with the NFL and realized this is an actual career where I'm using my skill set in dance to create beautiful imagery. That's kind of how I started in the fitness modeling space.
And as a fitness model, did you feel like you were fit and healthy and the people around you were fit and healthy? What was the space like?
Again, that was where I had to try to fuse that disconnect that I was experiencing as a health and wellness teacher, because what people don't realize, I think, as a traditional fashion model, they're viewed one way. Fitness models are viewed another way. And there's all these different entities of quote unquote types of models. Now, in the fitness modeling space, and especially when a year or two later I joined the Wilhelmina family, I realized, okay, everyone here is an instructor. You have the Soul Cycle instructors, you have the boxing instructors, you have the Pilates women that are, doing the more bar, pretty campaigns. I had to figure out where I fit in. And in order to do that and for your imagery to come across on camera as A, authentic, but B, visually pleasing and inspirational, you need to live the lifestyle. You need to eat healthy. You need to be working out on a regular basis, and you need to actually do the work. And I think that because people hear model, they think automatically, we're born into this life. But I didn't start modeling until I was 27 years old. And really until I embraced the health and wellness lifestyle, I completely overhauled. I don't want to call it a diet because I don't believe in diets, but Whole Foods became a huge part of my life. I started learning about when to eat, and how to use food as fuel. And when I saw that connection between the dance space, fitness space, and the food come together, all of a sudden, all these opportunities lay before me. And that's when I started my blog. And that's when I started working with the bigger brands, got the bigger agency deal. And all of a sudden, I'm in a completely new world when I thought that I was just going to be a teacher forever. And I loved my teaching job, and I still would be a teacher. So it's just, I feel extremely blessed that the two were able to be fused together in such a way.
That's really interesting, Taylor, because I must admit, sometimes I see like a fitness model and wonder whether they can actually do what they're modeling.
Right. And I think that's the best part. And I always say the best part about this job is meeting all of the other women and men, but for the most part, this community of strong, empowered fitness models that I've met. Because if you walk on set, let's say, for example, some of those bigger brands, you will encounter the most rigorous days in your life. My first real fitness modeling job was with Fitness Magazine. Now you see the ending image. It's, something beautiful. It's this girl and she's oiled up and she's greased up. It was a pool workout. It was 12 hours outside in the Miami sun. Not even kidding when I tell you I did 50 cannonballs and pushed myself out of the pool 50 times. By the end of the day, I couldn't walk. I was like, what is this? You see the after, but people don't see the during. A lot of the times when you walk into the casting, you're going to be asked to, maybe it's not swim in a pool, but you're going to ask to be doing push-ups. You're going to be asked to do burpees. You're going to be asked to have proper form while you're doing resistance training. Because yes, they'll have someone on set to semi-guide you, but if you can't perform those movements, it's not going to come across on camera. So these girls are in every class every day. They're working out. They're doing research. It's a completely different experience than showing up on set and just smiling.
So would you say then being a fitness model is different to being, say, another type of model?
Oh, absolutely. And that's not to take anything away from a traditional fashion model, because that has its own set of work that goes into it. I think what we bring to the table is just something a little bit different. I think a lot of us have the differences. Some of us are a little older. We don't have to be as tall. A lot of us are ambassadors for different, which is where the social media space comes into play. So a lot of us are ambassadors for different programs. I've been on set with Neiman Marcus as a movement coach. There's so many different opportunities for us as models that really kind of give us a little bit more longevity in the business also.
Yeah, it sounds like you are an ambassador for several different things. So can you maybe talk us through a typical day and what that would look like for you? And I guess also mention whether is that similar or different to other fitness influencers?
Every day is different, which I think is very similar to other influencers. And I think just depending on the level and the amount, because I've met influencers that have employees that work for them, that shoot for them every day, that help them create their content and build their brand. For me, I'm considered, quote unquote, a micro influencer, but I'm nutritious life certified. So I do nutrition coaching. I do personal training. I do group fitness training. And so a typical day for me, will be get up, breakfast, my emails, workout, and then I go on and do my training sessions during the day. And then another day could be get up. Maybe it's not time for a workout, but I go teach a group X class, and then I'm down on South Beach shooting content, and then I'm at an event at night. So it's like no day is the same, which is a double-edged sword because I love routine. So where my morning rituals and evening rituals really come into play there. But it's also exciting because every day is different. And the moments for me, especially as an influencer and building something from scratch, is like those moments when you're down and you're like, why am I doing this? All of a sudden you get this job offer or you get this email from someone that's been following you and, they're thanking you for putting that content out there. And you're like, okay, this is my why. This is why I move forward. This is why I do this. And then you just propel yourself up the mountain and chisel away.
Why are you doing it? What are you chiseling for?
I think in the health and wellness space, especially, there's so many extremes. I think part of why I'm doing it is why I started. It does keep me accountable to a certain degree. But B, I think it's just creating connection. I moved away from my family for a man that I love. And as much as I adore him, fitness has given me a community that I never thought that I would have again. I moved away from family. I moved away from my friends. And fitness has been my stepping stone to build a life not separate from my husband, because I always call us codependently independent, but just gave me an identity of my own. And I think I've always had a passion for teaching people, and it gives me a platform to reach. My blog has been viewed in 100 different countries around the world. I would have never been able to do anything like that if it wasn't for social media and the internet.
So why is it important for you that it's viewed by millions of people around the world? What does it matter to you?
Well, I think the biggest thing, it matters for me because I want to give people access to help people, that might not be able to, maybe afford to have a nutrition coach. So maybe I can give people tips on how to live an active and healthier lifestyle. Because when you're, putting that message out there and people are actually taking it in and building that connection to someone who would never have the opportunity to do so, you're changing someone's life. And to me, I feel like weeding through the smoke and mirrors, it's so important to me to develop a clear message that health is not a one-stop shop for everyone, and create those connections and those opportunities for people who might not be able to afford the fancy classes or the one-on-one professional help. For me, it just comes down to a basic necessity and a basic want to help people. And that's kind of why it's so important, because this messaging, you just want to get it across so badly. And people, I think, need to live active and healthier lifestyles, but don't necessarily know how or why.
So it sounds like you juggle between, through your blog, helping millions of people to, on a micro level, doing group training. And I assume you're a group bar instructor, as well as personal training, as well as your nutrition coaching. How do you break all that up? How do you sort of devote X amount of time to what? And how do you, I guess, get income streams coming through for all of these things?
So I try to keep a pretty strong content calendar. So if I know that a certain holiday is coming up or time of year, or I will write down ideas for specific content. And then in terms of working with brands, a lot of time when they're gearing up for their, different times of the year too, it's usually on a quarterly basis. And there'll be brands that you develop relationships with over time. They'll do some outreach. And I actually do now have a blog agent that helps me vet some opportunities and things like that, so I can keep the business aspect of it going, pretty smooth. And then I'm able to focus on like passion content. So utilizing YouTube to put out videos. If there's something, honestly, I think the topics that do well for me are the ones where I'm being the most vulnerable and sharing, like when I'm not feeling well and how I get back on track, when I skip my workouts and how to, propel forward, how to slow down and pull back to move forward in your health and wellness lifestyle. So I think juggling between all of those things, sometimes it's a very delicate balancing act. I like making lists. And then I like to have my content calendar, and then be flexible as well is probably the third thing that I have to have in there, because not everything always goes according to plan. Maybe you're like, last week I had an issue. My images didn't come out the way that I needed it, and I had a deadline. So I had to, shift some things around to make that happen. So being a little flexible is always helpful.
And obviously, like doing a one-on-one sort of style personal training is not necessarily, I guess, reaching as many people, but it's quality time with one person. Do you do a lot of that?
I do a little bit of one-on-one training, and it's usually for clients that I work with here in Miami locally. Nutrition coaching, more or less, I do one-on-one through Skype. And I love, even though it's not reaching the masses, like I'm working with a couple of younger clients right now that are in their teens, early 20s. And when I hear that these changes are taking place, I have more of a whole woman approach to health and wellness. So that might include a workout. It might include, just food specific. But when I see those changes taking place and I'm watching a young woman kind of feel more comfortable in her own skin, and this is just one person, it makes my world. So even though it's just one person, I'm still like 100% committed to that person and to seeing change with them. And it makes me just as happy as if a blog, gets read by thousands of people.
Awesome. And how do you choose who you affiliate yourself with in terms of your, being an ambassador and making money through affiliate programs?
So, of course, early on when I started, I didn't think that this would actually turn into a business. But what really helped me develop who my person was that I was speaking to and develop a strong sense of self was developing like my mission and my media kit, and helped me develop who is Taylor Walker Fit, who is the Taylor Walker Fit reader. And I told myself earlier on that I never want to align myself with a brand that didn't fit that vision. You know, I think people assume as an influencer, you get all this free stuff and you make all this money and you go and you snap a selfie and you put it out there and then you're making all this money. But the reality of the situation is it's daily work. And there's plenty of times, I mean, I'm turning down opportunity because it just doesn't align with what I want to put out there or present myself with or align myself with, so to speak. So you have to vet through. And at the end of the day, you need to go to sleep and feel okay that, you know, whatever content you put out there, that you're going to stand behind it, because people will call you out.
No doubt in this day and age. Taylor, it sounds like you actually work very hard. I think there's this sort of image that, social media influencers and models, they just have it so easy and they make all this money doing nothing. And you clearly demonstrate a totally different lifestyle. So how do you remain fit and healthy during all of this? You mentioned a couple of things. You mentioned you have a routine in the mornings and evenings. Is that one big thing?
Yeah, my ritual, especially when I was going through the Nutritious Life program with Kerry Glassman, I wanted to establish my rituals because they're the one thing that I have control over every day. Before I got pregnant, for the past few years, I was traveling. I was in a different hotel every week, basically living on an airplane and out of a suitcase. And I was kind of like, how do I stay healthy and not sick through all of this? And my rituals are really important to me. So a ritual basically is like 3 things that are health related that you do first thing in the morning, or 3 things that you do before bed. For me, I like to start off on a healthy note, and that organically trickles down through my day. So my basic plain ritual is get up, glass of water with lemon or apple cider vinegar, journal, stretch, coffee ready to take on the day, and a functional coffee. So, you know, collagen and all that stuff. Anywhere that I was, no matter where it was in the country, I could be East Coast, West Coast, up, down, no matter what time of day, I could always start with that ritual. And it just gave me that feeling and control, because for me, it's like I try to present that health and wellness is so much more than just like counting your macros and lifting heavy and all these things. It's a whole person approach to living your healthiest life. My ritual is definitely one way I do that. I set workout goals every week, whether it's 3 times a week, 5 times a week. And if I'm not feeling good and I miss a workout, I don't beat myself up over it. I just kind of say, okay, I need to focus more on my nutrition tomorrow, or I get more water, or I go for a walk, whatever the case may be. And just take it as a whole person approach, which includes, you know, meditation, which includes sleeping, which includes hydration. You know, all these things work together to make a person well and whole.
And so would you mind sharing your 3 rituals in the evening that you do?
Sure. So as I'm winding down, I like to read, hot shower or bath. And again, I'll stretch. And then most recently, I'm doing hypnobirth practices. So it's deep breathing and relaxation. And I keep my phone plugged in across the room, so it's not anywhere near me, and TV off. So that's about an hour before bed. I'll take that shower. I'll give myself a little stretching time. I read, and then I hypnobirth. And usually when I hypnobirth, I fall asleep. But that could be any sort of meditation. The Headspace app is great. There's so many wonderful apps, or even putting on YouTube if you have that, and just listening and taking some deep breaths so you can have a deeper sleep. Some of my clients, I like to suggest writing a note or list that they have for the next day, keeping a pen and paper towards the bed, putting it away. Because sometimes our minds, we just have to learn to shut it off, because we're just inundated all day with so much more information than we ever were inundated with.
And do you ever feel that you're tied to social media and that it becomes almost like a job?
Can I say yes and no?
Sure.
So more often than not, it doesn't, because I enjoy it so much. I've made so many amazing friends through social media, and then have been given these beautiful opportunities. I have some things coming up in the fall, the support throughout my pregnancy, which that, you know, came with a whole other wave of emotions. And then on the times where I'm like, okay, I see myself going down this rabbit hole where I need to draw a line in the sand. I've kind of gotten over that hump of like comparing myself to other people. But then the times where I'm like, okay, I'm spending time away from my family, or I'm spending time away from my husband because I need to get this snap or this photo or whatever it is, then I'm like, okay, this is a hard stop. It's still going to be there tomorrow. Let's take a little bit of a break. Just like anything, we all get burnout with our jobs, no matter what you do, even as much as you love it, you still get burnt out sometimes. So I have to draw the line in the sand for sure with it at certain times and just take a little bit of break. But it might be for a couple of hours, or it might be, okay, it's 3:00 in the afternoon and I won't touch it until tomorrow, unless I have a deadline.
And I'm very interested to ask you how you juggle being a mother and being an entrepreneur.
This is my first. So he's still in utero. He's still baking. And thankfully, it's, knock on wood, been a very easy pregnancy. So I was able to still model up until about, month 4 or 5 when I started to show in the fitness space. It's been actually a little bit easier during this time to refocus and kind of reevaluate what my goals are and sleep in my own bed for more than 3 days at a time. So it's almost been a blessing because things have slowed down a little bit. I really had to adjust to that because I probably had a week or two where I'm so used to the chaos and I'm like, okay, I don't have a modeling job and I don't have this. And I started to go a bit stir crazy. And when I readjusted my mindset and got used to the fact that, I'm making a human, a brain and a heart. And then all of a sudden I had all this time to create, all these other things started opening up for me. So now I have more time to focus on my blog and on my Instagram, and modeling will fall back into place when the time is right. So, and I'm already, now that I'm showing, I'm getting opportunities and things are starting to pick up again. So it taught me a very important lesson, and that's to take the ebbs and the flows.
And do you think your life will change? I mean, obviously it'll change, but do you sort of have a plan?
Yeah, absolutely. My plan over the past year, I didn't know how long it was going to take for us to get pregnant. First try, that happens. We weren't expecting to get pregnant so fast. However, before we started trying, I had goals where I wanted to have certain certifications. So I acquired the nutrition, I acquired the personal training, so that when we do have kids and I can't just hop on a plane within 12 hours notice, I have something that I can focus on. So I think I'll dive deeper into the personal training business. I'll focus on, taking on more clients. And yes, it'll transition. I think it has to. It's no longer just about me. I have to raise, thankfully with a great partner, a human being. The biggest thing that I want to show him is that mommy or daddy, we can both be fierce in chasing our goals and our passions, but first he'll come first before having to leave him behind. But, with that comes sacrifice, just like anything.
I'd just like to say good luck with those rituals.
Yeah.
You might have to adjust them slightly, but we'll see.
That's the thing. We all have to adjust, exactly. Right?
And it won't get any easier, but that's okay. So
how many do you have?
No, I've just got one, so it's easy.
Yeah,
So tell me, what do you think about social media in terms of health and fitness? I mean, I can see why you're into social media and how that you use that to help people. Do you think that social media in general is helping or hindering the overall health of people, or say everyday people, whatever you want to take that to mean? Yeah, what are your thoughts about that?
Again, I would like to say both here. I think there are a lot of people out there that are quote unquote influencers that people are looking to and listening to for advice. I have certain people that I look to, and those are people with the certifications. Like when it comes to nutrition advice, the people that I follow are the registered dietitians, are, the people in the health and wellness space that have been doing this for years, like a Carrie Glassman or a good friend that I have in LA. They have been through school, they've been through the works, and they have science-backed knowledge of what they're doing. I think some people are, unfortunately, in this, I hate to say it, Kardashian age, they're putting things out there that aren't necessarily true, or they're putting out unrealistic standards of beauty, of body image, and what it means to be healthy. So I think you just, as a consumer, need to do your research. There's so much at our fingertips. If someone's pushing a shake or a tea or a new sunglass brand, do your research, because a photo and a smiling face, although it might be beautiful, I think we're all built differently and born differently. And I think that sense of comparison starts to get to the best of many people, especially women and especially the younger generations, when all they're seeing is perfection thrown in their faces. So although I feel like it's hurting us to a certain degree, I also feel that the support of certain communities, especially in the health and wellness space, certain influencers I look up to, like Go Fit Joe. She was a fitness competitor and she's a mother of two, and she's found this like harmony and balance, and she rocks her stretch marks, and she's, fully comfortable in the skin she's in. And I'm like, hell yeah, girl. Like, we just worked together on a huge campaign. And, there's so much positivity in terms of social media. But I think with the political climate that we're in, with the fact that everyone has a video camera at their fingertips, everyone has an opinion about everything, there's a lot of negativity to sift through. So I think people need to, A, compartmentalize the best they can, and B, do their research.
I think you explained that really well. Just one thing, though, I would bring up there is you mentioned certifications and dietitians and what have you. I would tend to disagree that maybe just because you're a dietitian, I don't know if you look at what they actually study, but maybe a lot of the stuff that they're actually studying, you'd probably disagree with in terms of, say, the food pyramid.
Again, it all comes back to research, like in terms of looking into their credentialing and really getting a feel for, how do you connect to them? How do they make you feel? Do they make you feel guilty for eating a cookie? Or do they say, yeah, have that cookie and keep on moving? How do they make you feel? But I think because there are so many quick fixes out there, so I should kind of retract that in terms of having the certifications. And I mean, I just have so many RD friends that I think are such wealths of knowledge and wonderful. But I think that kind of getting to know that person, and if they're making you, because you live a certain lifestyle, not feel good about yourself, they might not be the person you should follow.
Absolutely.
Or they're forcing you to take a pill or drink a tea every other photo so that you'll have quick weight loss and look like them. Maybe they're not the right person to follow. That's why I love Instagram stories so much, because I had a couple people that have said to me, they're like, I love that you come on Insta stories. Your hair's a wreck. You might have acne on your face. You have no makeup on. I'm like, yeah, because that's what's real. Our feeds aren't always a prime example of what's real.
But quite frankly, Taylor, even if you didn't have makeup on, you'd still look better than most people. So I think you can probably get away with it.
You're very kind. But, it just gives a different perspective into people's lives. So I think you want to walk away from social media, take the positives away from it best you can. And if you find yourself going down that rabbit hole, or you're finding yourself not feel good, or, you're not doing your research and you're just eating, because this person tells you what to eat or how to move, and it's not necessarily what you want to do or what makes you feel good, maybe you should reevaluate. I guess that's kind of it.
Yeah, I like that. That's awesome. And would you mind sharing with us your journey, I guess, with fitness? You mentioned that you're a dancer and then you're a PE teacher. So how did you transition? Obviously, just through your journey, you would have had, I guess, your mind would have changed a bit as to the best way to work out for you. And so how have your workouts changed and what do they look like today? I mean, or before you got pregnant and today?
Yeah. Again, that's something that I think evolves every day depending on my mood and personality. Prior to when I was dancing, that's pretty much my primary form of movement, because you're working on your cardiovascular fitness and you're also working on your muscular endurance. So it's like you're toning head to toe, your cardio is up, you're a conditioned athlete strictly through dance. When I did coach teams, we added some heavier resistance training to that. In terms of my workouts, they really took a lull. I'm 33 now, but from about 25, I'd say to 27, when I really saw my metabolism slowed, I was deep in school. I was probably working out once a week, and it just wasn't what I needed. So my workouts now are really more mind focused and mindful. So again, maybe during those rituals, I'm like, okay, checking in with myself. What do I need today? So maybe one day I'm feeling like I need a yoga class. If I have a little bit more angst, I might do kickboxing. So I really try to change it up. I'm a bar girl. I love boxing. I like HIIT workouts, anything kind of an hour or less. You probably won't find me in the gym, for longer than an hour realistically. But I like to change it up just depending on my mood, depending on the week, 3 to 5 workouts a week. Usually nightly, we're going on a walk for 2 miles, thankfully in Miami. We can do that at any time of year. But I think the daily check-ins are really, really important because then you can create a mind-body connection that a lot of people are disconnected with, and give your body, feed your soul. So to move in a style that works for you, because if you're forcing yourself, I'm not a runner. And if I force myself to run, things are going to hurt and I don't enjoy it. And then I'm going to taper off and not do it. So I think find an instructor you love is a huge piece of advice, and find a movement style that you love. And it's okay to adapt and change that. So for me, I went from super disciplined, dancing all the time, to not really doing much of anything, to 3 to 5 times a week moving in a way that I love.
And obviously you're very intuitive. You know what your body wants on that day. Do you ask yourself certain questions in your journaling, or how do you determine what you're going to do as a workout?
Especially in the morning while I'm stretching, I listen. If I'm sore, I might need more of a stretch class and maybe a yoga class, something less impactful. I check in, I ask myself, okay, what areas are hurting today? What's my mood today? Because I do have some allergy issues being in South Florida. How is that feeling? And that will determine kind of where I go. So I know if I want to clear out my system, maybe something a little more cardio based. If I'm a little bit sore, I'll do more of a stretch yoga. If I'm like, I had a crappy day the day before, didn't sleep well that night, I'm like, okay, I need to get some of this energy out of my body. It's kickboxing. And then sometimes it's availability. Maybe I only have from 8 to 9 to work out. What class is there? I have to self-talk myself sometimes, like all of us, and maybe schedule classes in advance to get there. Because sometimes after a long work day, you don't want to do anything but sit on your butt and eat potato chips, right? So, maybe if I schedule and pay for a class, I know I have work that day, that's going to make me go versus skipping my workout that day. So it's just kind of checking in with myself and listening to my body and asking myself, how do I feel? How do I want to move today? And what does my body need?
Awesome. And is that a similar way that you approach nutrition?
Yeah, I think it's developing. I think people have this not skewed sense, but that nutrition has to be black and white. It took me probably a solid year to develop what healthy living means to me. Because obviously my Monday to Friday is different from my Friday to Sunday, like most of us, right? So I have friends. I like going out. We have parties. I love cheeseburgers. I love pizza. But I'm not going to beat myself up over it if I have one down meal. I'm going to pick up the pieces and keep on moving. But that took a solid probably 8 to 12 months to develop, where I'm eating clean a certain percent of the time, the majority of the time, so that when I do say, hey, I'm going to eat this pizza, or I'm going to eat this donut, it's not going to set me off on a spiral. So it might start where you need to be more rigid in the beginning and keep only whole foods in your cabinet. And that's what I like to develop on my blog, or healthy recipes that are quick and easy and that everyone in your family will love, because it's really tough, especially I think as moms who are trying to eat healthy because maybe we have some baby weight or we're not feeling too comfortable in our skin. And then our husbands are, downing the cheeseburgers and they're downing this, and you're just sitting there biting your salad. It's no fun to do that. You want things that are flavorful, but that don't take 8 hours a day to make. So I think my approach is very similar in that. Be like, okay, you ate that 3 slices of pizza last night. Today, we're going to up your hydration. You're going to up your intake of whole foods. You're not going to skip a meal, but you're going to make sure that your digestive system gets reset. So it is a very similar approach. 2 things I suggest for my clients is to develop your why in terms of exercise and nutrition. Why are you doing something? Why are you exercising? Why are you going vegan? Why are you becoming a vegetarian? And just keep your why in the back of your mind so that it can help propel you forward when you are making these choices to skip a workout or eat whatever you want to eat. That's one thing. And then just continue, like I said before, to develop that mind-body connection and to check in with yourself, like mind, body, soul. I think all of that stuff is super, super connected for us as human beings.
That is an excellent explanation. I couldn't even think of anything to add to that, Taylor. That's awesome. Look, before I let you go, I would love to ask you a slightly personal question. One question I ask all the guests on the show, and that is, do you have a tattoo?
I do not.
I didn't think so because I checked out Instagram and I couldn't see anything. Is there a reason why?
So my brother is covered in tattoos. He's hysterical. He was a college athlete. My dad was a former NFL athlete, and he's very hippy-dippy. And at 15, took my brother to get his first tattoo. And my grandfather is Jewish. And in the Jewish faith, you can't get buried in a Jewish cemetery if you have tattoos. So it was like caused a huge uproar. I mean, my grandpa was good as gold, the best. And my husband doesn't have any either, but my brother, he's covered and he's got my grandfather's name tattooed on him, but you can't see them anywhere if he's fully clothed. So they're kind of for him, but for me, none. My husband doesn't have any either. And in terms of modeling, it is hard if you are covered in tattoos too.
Yeah, good.
So that's probably.
And I guess your brother's sort of taking care of it for everyone.
Exactly. I never wanted to get yelled at like that. I fury come from my mom, and I never wanted to have that towards me. So
that is awesome. So Taylor, can I ask you maybe some advice for people who are out there and they want to help people get fit and healthy? Would you recommend they get on social media and help through social media, or is there another avenue that you feel that they should take, or perhaps it's saturated market and it's not necessary?
No, I encourage people, listen, social media is going to grow and change, and it's not going anywhere. There might be different platforms down the road. There might be different ways, especially when I'm talking to newer bloggers and people that want to get into the industry. I'm like, the hardest thing to do is start, because we do a lot of talking about things before we put pen to paper, right? So I'm like, develop your site. I started with an Instagram name. That's it. When I was going through this whole process with Wilhelmina and I entered a fitness contest with them, a nationwide fitness model search, I started it because I had 3 weeks to say, okay, I need to kickstart this lifestyle and really get it to the place where I want to be. So it was a place for me to make connections with like other people and for them to keep me accountable. It developed organically from there, never thinking that, 3 years from then or even a year later that it would be a business and I would be with the biggest modeling agency in the world. But it did. I think the biggest thing is if you're thinking about it, just do it. The only thing stopping you is you.
And would you say that the same thing with modeling, or perhaps you just need to definitely have a bit of a look?
I mean, with modeling, it's definitely a lot of it is luck. The look at the time. I think being biracial, that definitely helped me in a time where I think the advertising started to change. This is probably 5-6 years ago. And you were seeing more diverse men and women. You're seeing different body types. So it was a really good time for me to get in it. And I mean, I have friends that, they went for it. They didn't get signed. They kept working on their books. They kept shooting with different photographers, and they were signed maybe 3 years later than where they started. So I feel like you never want to ask yourself, what if? That's like a huge driving force for me. And a huge part of that is part of the Wilhelmina Fitness Contest, because I literally entered at the last minute, at the last hour, because my mentor that I grew up with kept forwarding it to me. And I was like, I'm not entering a modeling contest. You're silly, da-da-da. Out of 6,000 entries, I end up landing the contract. Never in a million years thinking that it would happen. So again, we're the ones who stop ourselves. So I'd say you never want to ask what if, just go for it.
That's awesome. And just to our listeners out there, she is married, so please don't email me asking her details. I recently had a very good-looking man on the show, and I got a lot of emails from some women. Little did they know he was gay, so.
Yeah, that's usually the case, right?
Exactly. Thanks again, Taylor. And we're going to link to all your social media and your website, of course, so that people can get in touch with you, whether it be for nutrition coaching, PT, or maybe even just to check out your social media and what you offer through your blog.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
For all the resources and show notes from today's episode, please go to www.ali.fitness. If you liked today's episode, please show your appreciation by going to iTunes, give us a 5-star review and subscribe.